Right, the Social Security Agency says people who have family members or other sources who put money into their bank accounts do not qualify for the 350 Rand COVID-19 Relief Grant. As the country continues with the nationwide lockdown, coupled with increasing numbers of virus infections and deaths, many businesses and citizens are feeling the effects of reduced economic activity. For more on the relief grant, we joined on the line by SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi. Paseka, a very good morning to you and thanks for joining us. How many applications have SASSA received so far?
Good morning, Desiree, and to the viewers as well. We can safely say we received about 7.1 million applications. And out of that, those which were approved, it's about 3.2 million. And those which failed, which could not go through, it's about 3.3 million. And the payments that we processed and debited, it's about 1.9 million so far.
So you've paid the rest besides the 3.3 million?
Yes, we have, and this amounts to about 61% of those approved applications. Remember, what we simply do is to take applications through other government entities. What we do, we take them through a UIF, we check with NSFAS, we also check with SARS if there is no other way, because in this process, we're trying to avoid double dipping. So that's why some of these applications fell through. However, there's a process of management that we have just tried to come up with to make sure that those who are aggrieved, because we know that there are many people who are aggrieved, would want to make sure that there's a process in which we can be able to interact with them and see if we can't sort out the problem.
Paseka, just on my personal Twitter account, I've received so many responses of people saying they don't understand what you need to qualify. In order for a person to qualify, what are the requirements? I mean, I just said on my intro now that if there's money coming into your bank, you won't qualify, which is quite unfair. What if the money is coming from an aunt or somebody who's trying to supplement? It's not necessarily an income.
No, you're quite right, Desiree. Those are some of the things that we said management should try to quickly look into. It's not only that about people who say, I've got an uncle or an aunt who's depositing money in my account every month, but it's also the issue of people who are in the UIF, because in any case, some of them are not actually getting paid, but they might be on the database of the UIF. So we requested our colleagues to make sure that they work in those particular issues quickly, and we think would want to make sure that those who deserve to get a 350 will definitely try to make sure that we process and they get it. Remember, all that we are trying to do is to make sure that the 350 goes to those who are deserving, because we know that as much as we are trying to make sure that we pay the 350 to the deserving applicants, we also have those who are trying to defraud the system.
Absolutely. How do you make your determinations in terms of who's double dipping or not?
It's very. What we do, Desiree, we have an agreement with the UIF. We have an agreement with SARS. We also have an agreement with Home Affairs and so on, so that if you are getting something from UIF, our information is such that we are able to bounce with it, and it's able to come back to us and say this person is getting money from UIF. But what we want to separate now, Desiree, is to make sure that there's a distinction between a person who is in the database and a person who is getting money from UIF, because there are people who are saying, I last worked in 2000, for an example. I would be in the database of the UIF, but I would not be getting anything from UIF. So those are some of the things which we are trying to sort out. But we also don't want to take people through a very lengthy process, because we understand that people need this money. So we just want to make sure that internally we clean up the process, we sort out certain things so that if people are approved, they can be able to get their money as quick as possible.
The grant was introduced in April. Why has it taken SASSA 2 months to pay out all the applicants?
We have made those payments. Like I'm saying, to date, the payment that was processed and paid in people's bank accounts, and some which was paid in the banks, especially those who do not necessarily have bank accounts, it's about 1.9 million people who have been paid. Yes, we agree that at the beginning, we might have taken longer, Desiree, to make that particular payment, because we were trying to make sure that whatever that we do, we do it by the law. We don't want to pay people, and we know that there are those who are trying to defraud the system. We don't want to pay wrong people, and we go to Parliament or we go to the AG, we are found wanting and not be able to account properly in terms of what we have done. So we have passed that stage, and we think that so far we're trying to move as quick as possible to make sure that people get what is due to them.
I'd like you to ask you this question, and I'd really like you to answer it in detail because it's one of the biggest concerns we've been receiving. It says a lot of people have complained that their applications have been declined in most cases. What is the cause of the decline? I'll tell you a tweet we got here from Restless I Am saying, I'm aware of someone who has been declined for a relief package. SMS receipt said he is employed, but he hasn't been working for a year. In those instances where people are in databases and companies as employees, but they are not current employees and they are previous employees and they're currently unemployed, how do you go about fixing that? Because they clearly need the assistance, they are not employed, but they're reflecting in somebody's database as an employee.
No, you're quite right, Desiree, and we understand the frustrations which people might have. That's why as an organization, especially at the management level, we have agreed that we need to, as quick as possible, make sure that people have a way of making sure that they can be able to address the matter internally. We don't want to take people through a very lengthy process of appeal, which will take a month or two. We just want people to go in those particular numbers which they applied and be able to appeal so that we can be able internally go through the database and say, yes, we have seen when we go into the account of an individual that there's money which has been deposited, but like we said earlier on, you might find that it's an aunt who has been depositing money in the account of an individual applicant. Secondly, we know that there are people who are in the database of UIF, but they are not actually getting payment. So you cannot treat someone who is in the database as the same as someone who is getting payment. We need to sort out those things, and we have agreed as management that we must not make people wait because they really need this 350. We must make sure that there's an intervention, and intervention happens as quick as possible.
The other thing is you can't really make them wait because there isn't any waiting period. These relief packages are time bound.
No, they are time. That's why we don't want people to wait, Desiree. When people go through the review mechanisms internally, we want to make sure that their process is resolved as quick as possible so that we can be able to pay. Hence, we have taken a decision that the normal payment of social grant must not coincide with the COVID-19 social grant payment because it will create unnecessary confusion. But we are delighted to say we'll continuously engage with communities through all other mediums so that they are able to understand what processes they are supposed to follow if they are aggrieved. And we want to make sure, and we can commit here, Desiree, that the issue of those who are aggrieved is being treated as very important by the management of the South African Social Security Agency.
This is the other important one, and you've already spoken about it, but let's just unpack it a bit. The review process for failed applications, how does it work? What are people supposed to do? Because most of the time people are saying, we don't know where to go to from here.
What we have done, Desiree, one, at another level, we are in the process of making sure that the directives are changed, but that's going to take some time. But secondly, what we are doing currently is to make sure that by the end of this week, people can be able to go to the same number which they use, and they can be able to raise their dissatisfaction, and we can be able to take it up. While we're still waiting for other processes to unfold, we don't want to sit down and say we are waiting for the directive to be amended or whatsoever. We need to make sure that as an organization we become proactive and make sure that those who are aggrieved are able to address their matters immediately. So we would appeal to our beneficiaries, especially by tomorrow. We think the processes will be unfolding to go back to the number that they used and lodge their appeal on the same number, and we'll be able to engage with them. In some instances, and we want to appeal to our people, make sure that when you put your ID number, it's correct. make sure that when you put your account number, it's correct. Because if we pick up that there's one number which is incorrect on your ID number, the system will automatically kick you out. Or if you put to us wrong banking details, remember we still have to bounce it and check with all the banking institutions if the account number is correct. If it's incorrect, it will kick you out. So we just want to appeal to our people that they must make sure that their details are correct and they appear as they are the same in the ID or the account number is also correct.
So for those who have received approval SMSs but have not received their money, what steps should they be taking?
Those who have received the approval, we will definitely make sure that, because there are SMSs which we always communicate with them. We do send them the SMS to say that this thing has been approved. You can go to your bank to go check the money. This has been approved. You can also go to the post office. But I think what we are trying to do here, and as much as we understand that sometimes it can be painful, is to make sure that the money does not end in the wrong hands. We know there are instances where people are trying to short-circuit the system. Someone would want to take Paseka's ID number and make an application. That we match the system, we match the information, and we do not necessarily have a situation where we end up paying wrong people, because at the end of the day, Desiree, we'll have to account to Parliament, we'll have to account to the AG in terms of what we have done with the money.
Your checks, but I'm sure you understand on the flip side the frustration of millions and millions of people who are hoping to get some sort of improvement in their lot, especially in terms of getting access to food and essential stuff.
No, we do, Desiree, and I think we must not undermine or underestimate the frustrations which people have. Hence, as an organization, we said there are certain mechanisms which we can try to come up with. People can appeal and so on, but we know that the processes of appeal, the processes of changing certain things takes longer. What is it as an organization we can do immediately so that people who are aggrieved, we can be able to interact with them and so on? And as management, Desiree, I can tell you that we have just agreed that we need to move with speed of light to make sure that people are able to access what is due to them. And I can assure you, and I can assure the public of South Africa, that as management, the decision that we took was to make sure that each and every person who is eligible to get access to the 350 gets it without any problem or without any delay.
Let's talk a bit about lessons learned in the past 3 months, the kind of motions that SASSA has gone through, and how you're going to use lessons learned now to improve your processes going forward.
The lessons which we have learned, Desiree, is one, we needed to upscale our communication with the public, because in some instances, when we started, we found out that 12 million people applied. But we realized that one person might have applied 10 times. And we realized in some instances, a person might have been frustrated in terms of us communicating with them. And we said it's important for us to make sure that we improve the level of communication so that people know that you can apply more than once, because one, you also clog the system. In some instances, we realized that when we said people must give us their ID number, they actually upload the copy, which then clogged the system, and the system became very slow. And in some instances, people also gave us copies of the account details in the banks and so on. And after we have done that, we also went through a lengthy process of trying to make sure that we have the MOUs with all other government entities, because one of the problems, which we must emphasize, that there are some information which SARS says we can't give an information which is confidential to the public. We had to navigate those particular problems. But at the end, once everybody was in agreement, we think from where we are, we'll definitely make sure that the process moves as quick as possible forward. But one of the most important things, Desiree, we don't want people who are getting the 350 social COVID-19 social grant to end up mixing them with people who are getting your normal social grant when they get paid next week, because we know that we are trying to make sure that there's an issue of social distance. We try to make sure that everybody fights the spread of the COVID-19.
Paseka, for people who, this doesn't apply for people who've received their monies, but those who have been struggling, there's a sense that this is an uncaring government. How would you respond to that?
Look, Desiree, I think we as much as we want to move as quick as possible, which we think that everybody would agree that an organization must move as quick as possible. But the fact of the matter, Desiree, is that in 2021, when we have to go and account, everybody will be looking at us and say, as the South African Social Security Agency, you were supposed to have known better. Why have you deposited 500 million in wrong accounts? And I think everybody here must bear with an organization, but as an organization, we must make sure that we pull up our socks. We must make sure that everybody who is supposed to get their 350 get it without any problem and so on. And I think working together with communities, because we have also dispatched volunteers from the National Development Agency. Some of the volunteers are from the community development workers to go into the communities to make sure that they interact with our people, because in some instances, we realize that people have got a problem with cell phones. In some instances, we also realized that there was also a problem in terms of understanding how to communicate with us and so on. And we said, let's go to the communities, let's help them, let's make sure that we help them. But we also understand, and we understand fully so those who are aggrieved, to say this section of people which is aggrieved, we must make sure that we address some of their concerns. And I think once we do that, people will understand that an organization like the South African Social Security Agency is a caring organization.
Paseka Letsatsi, thank you so much for talking to us today. But just before you go, just some final information in terms of the way forward. What are the dates for payouts? What's the next season or tranche and dates for payouts, and also contact details, where just remind people what those contact details are if they need to get through to SASSA.
There's a WhatsApp number which they must use, which is 082 046 8553. There's also a website which is srd@sassa.gov.za. People can use those particular platforms to communicate with us. However, if people want to make a call, they can get in contact with us on our toll-free number, which is 0800 60 10 11. And there's what we normally do, because we don't want people who are getting the SRD COVID-19 social grant to clash with or to get their payment at the same time with people who are getting their normal grants. We try to make sure that we process them when we get them and take the badge to the banks and also to the post office.
Thank you so much again. Sorry, those dates again, the next payout dates?
We must just separate the days, Desiree, in terms of the COVID-19 social grant, because we have the COVID-19 social grant. We also have your normal payment of social grant, which will start on the 1st of July. Remember what we simply do, we pay on the 3rd of every month. So this month, in terms of your normal pay of the social grant, will be on the 3rd of July.
Normal grants will be the 1st of July, and the special grants will be?
The special grant, we basically pay every second week. We think by next week the payment will definitely go, but we want to make sure that it does not conflict or it does not happen at the same time with the payment of the normal social grant.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Paseka Letsatsi is the spokesperson for the Social Security Agency, SASSA. I know